On this episode of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie make the magic happen.
I think we graduated.
Testing some supercharged viral video trickery.
You ready to ruin Christmas dinner?
I can't wait.
Can a motorcycle make a tablecloth disappear?
Oh, here it comes.
Meanwhile, Carrie, Grant, and Tori
They're gonna fry my brain.
strain their brains for this pop culture myth.
Did you know most people use 10% of their brains?
But is this fraction a fact?
It's lighting up like a Christmas tree there.
That's so cool.
The team probed their lobes to find out.
This is real science.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Now I'm ready.
and Jamie Heineman. Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Carrie Byron,
What is that?
Tori Belleci,
Oh, we survived.
and Grant Imahara.
Start the car!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Check this out.
I hate to break it to you, but I've seen that before. It's a magic trick. It's not a myth.
This isn't, but there's a video that's been making the rounds on the web that is a twist to this trick that I think is right up our alley.
And that is?
In this clip, a table as long as a bus and set for a banquet has its tablecloth pulled out from under all its settings without disturbing any of them, using only the power of a super souped up motorcycle.
Ah, now you're talking.
Thought you'd like it.
In this viral video, rather than a quick flick of the wrist, it's a quick flick of the accelerator. And abracadabra, the tablecloth disappears, and a perfectly laid table remains. But is this turbocharged trick true, or just special effects sorcery?
So what's the plan?
Well, since this is in fact a trick that people do every day, I think we should spend some time unpacking the mechanics of exactly what makes it work.
Small scale test down on the floor of the shop?
Exactly. We want to figure out how to do this trick, how to pull a tablecloth and leave things on the table standing upright. But we don't just want to learn the trick, we want to learn the why of the trick. Gotta put some stuff on it first. We're gonna scale this up to a fairly impossible dimension, and I suspect that a lot of factors, object heaviness, cloth type, table type, all of these things might affect our success on that scale. Thus, in the small scale, we need to learn what factors are critical to making it work.
And with the table laid, Adam can focus on his hocus pocus.
Dude, are you ready?
I'm all ready.
Well, there's a vote of confidence. Tablecloth pull in 3, 2, 1. Oh,
That wasn't bad for a first try.
that was not bad for a first try. Okay, it's still pretty bad for a first try.
Not bad, but clearly there are some tricks to this trick. So next, it's time for Adam to button those down.
The table jumped all over the place. I think we can address that with a simple sandbag. 2, when I feel this, it's plywood. It's pretty rough. I think we can make it smoother before continuing, like this. Now we're ready.
With a smooth, stable table covered with a fresh cloth and a single bottle, there's one final thing Adam needs.
I want to know if this moves. I have an idea.
To monitor how much the wine moves, he makes a point.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Same thing.
Maybe it's the way I'm pulling.
But that point isn't required until eventually Adam gets the grip.
Hey! All right, now what did I do right?
Well, Newton's first law of inertia means that objects at rest stay at rest. But when the cloth is pulled, friction also acts on the objects. However, if the inertia is greater than the friction, the tablecloth is whipped free. But that's not the only reason the trick has started to work.
I think I've got something, which is the tablecloth has to end at the table. It can't be draping over. If it's draping over, too much noise is created and it wants to pull the bottle over. But when it's at the edge, it seems to leave the bottle standing. Now I want to play with some other fabrics.
Yep, the speed of the pull and position of the cloth are both important parameters. So next, will the type of fabric make a difference?
5/8 of an inch.
Using the high-speed camera and his pointer,
7/16.
Adam can assess just how much the bottle moves with a range of fabrics.
This one's no good. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's lovely, but it's no good for this trick. That right there, that's a 1/4 inch. That's the best one yet. I had assumed that a heavier satin fabric would actually be best for sliding underneath the objects on the table, when in fact, the lighter weight ones are outperforming everybody. Moreover, they're outperforming them when the shiny side is down rather than up. Who would have thought?
It turns out the lightweight satin has this category sewn up, making it the best-case scenario fabric for large scale. But there's one more parameter to test.
I find myself wondering if weight is a factor, and so I plan to remove some from this bottle.
In theory, the more mass an object has, the greater its inertia.
Don't worry, we only waste the cheapest wines.
So reducing the weight of the bottle could work against Adam.
Empty bottle, and my favorite fabric. 3, 2, 1.
But it doesn't. Because there's also a corresponding drop in the friction of the bottle on the tablecloth. And when you combine all the factors of the tablecloth tug,
3, 2, 1.
Wow,
Yeah,
that works.
I know! So what did we learn here? Well, we learned how to do the trick. I think we graduated. But we also learned some of the critical factors. One, most importantly, the tablecloth needs to be sheer, lightweight, and have no stretch in either dimension. 2, the tablecloth's placement is critical. It can't go over the edge of the table. It needs to be right up to it. And 3, the objects don't have to be very heavy. They actually can be quite light, and it still could work. And that tells me that this might actually work.
I think Adam has this stunt down, but it's one thing to do this by hand with a small table with just a couple things on it. It's another thing to do this with a motorcycle, and yet another thing to do this with a motorcycle and a really big table. We've got our work cut out for us.
next up, the MythBusters have a myth on the brain.
Okay, well, I hope you guys have your brains in gear.
Always do.
Good, because for this next myth, you're going to need them. We are testing a myth that is so prevalent that it's just taken for granted that it's fact. Humans only use 10% of their brain.
You hear that everywhere. It's like ingrained in our society.
Definitely, but that doesn't necessarily make it true.
This myth is so pop culture that it even made it to The Simpsons.
Joke if you will, but did you know most people use 10% of their brains? I am now one of them.
But are we really only using a fraction of our brains?
I think we need to come up with the biggest, most challenging brain test, one that will test every single area of the brain.
Well, let's utilize some sort of technology that can monitor brain activity and then maybe come up with like a quiz that could stimulate that activity.
Sounds good, but you know, I think we need some more info. So if you guys want to figure out how we can map the brain for a quiz, I'll find out more about the brain itself, its parts, and how they work.
Cool.
So before they start quizzing, they need a brain expert. And Grant has found just the man, Dr. Manley.
So if we were to go about testing what percentage of your brain you use, what sort of tests could you recommend?
There's a number of tests that one can do to look at brain activity or functional connectivity. One of the earliest ways that we determine to do this is with what's called an EEG, or an electroencephalogram. And this is where we measure the surface electrical activity on the brain. And when you do an EEG, you can see that all parts of the brain have some sort of activity.
I know the brain handles a lot of functions around the body, but What are the various parts, and what specifically do they do?
The brain is probably the most complicated organ in the human body, and as you can see here, the brain has many different parts and structures, which we break down typically into the frontal lobes, which are involved in executive functions such as planning and judgment. We have the temporal lobes here that are primarily involved in language here on the left side, and towards the medial part of it are involved in memory. The parietal lobes here help to integrate a lot of the sensory information. The occipital lobe, which is in the back, is how we process all of our visual information and things of that nature.
And that's important to remember for testing this myth. With different areas of the brain responsible for very different functions, they'll need a variety of tests to trigger every single part of Grant's brain, so the EEG can track its activity. Armed with this info, Grant heads to the studio where the brain games can begin.
To test the myth that we only use 10% of our brain, we have this amazing MythBusters game show set. Now, Grant's gonna be hooked up to an EEG and monitored by our specialist, Cynthia Curson.
Will this enhance my innate telepathic abilities? No.
I get to play the host today and present him with all of his challenges.
Challenges is an understatement. These tests were devised by Dr. Manley to strain every part of Grant's brain. So now, the first round of Brain Busters. Memory Mania. This tricky test will target his temporal lobe.
Grant, we're going to present you with 10 images of a person and an object. Then, we will repeat the images of the people, and you have to name the object that's associated with that person. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Adam Savage goes with
Orange.
1 right,
By recalling who goes with what,
Gun.
2 right.
Lion.
That's 3 right,
Grant's temporal lobe is triggered,
Tree.
4 right,
and the corresponding brain activity is recorded on the EEG.
Cloud.
6 right,
Wheel.
7 right.
With 1 test down and 1 perfect score, round number 2 is Crazy Calculation, which should be the ultimate challenge for Grant's parietal lobe.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Begin.
13.
To add extra difficulty, the numbers will spin and fade, while an audio track spits out others to distract Grant.
29. 10.
You are correct. The answer is 10. Next question.
2.
You are correct.
Then the unthinkable happens. Grant gets a math question wrong.
6.
The answer is 7. You fail.
6.
But 1 wrong answer doesn't deter Grant,
5.
Correct.
and he nails the rest of the round.
2. 12. 6.
You are correct. You get 9 out of 10 and advance to the next round.
Grant's brain is certainly getting a workout, but is it a strain on more than 10% of his brain?
What?
The MythBusters are updating the traditional tablecloth tug because of this viral video.
Now, in the video, it looks like the location they're filming in is some kind of large, long military warehouse type building. Luckily, in San Francisco, we've got a few of those. This is the Festival Pavilion at Fort Mason. Originally built by the Army in 1915, it is the location where we filmed Bullet Drop versus Fire, and for our tablecloth poll, I think it's the perfect match for the video.
Not only is the warehouse a perfect match to the video, it's also got plenty of space for our Easy Rider. So, let the turbocharged trickery begin.
Let me tell you about the bike we're going to use. This is my personal sport bike. It's an 1125R DSB made by Eric Gill Racing. It weighs 390 pounds. It puts 150 horsepower to the rear wheel. It does 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds and the quarter mile in 9.8 seconds. It tops out about 180 miles an hour. If we can't pull this off, it won't be because the bike's not fast enough.
That's the supercharged bike, and now they need a super-sized table.
Where do you get one of those? Well, I'm about to build it right here. When I'm done, we're gonna cover it with a tablecloth and 24 place settings, which should allow the Miss Manners approved 2 foot from guest to guest. Even though our guests are non-existent, we like to hold to Miss Manners.
And with Adam's 24-foot table almost finished,
Plastic wood grain, when nothing but the second best will do.
he then turns his attention to the tablecloth.
I want to be able to pull this tablecloth evenly, so I'm going to put a pipe at the end of it, just like we see in the video. But the fact that this seam is super parallel to the entire tablecloth is quite critical to an even pull across everything. I hope I've achieved it.
The final step is the table decoration. First with a cloth of lightweight satin, and on top of that, well,
This is one place setting. We need 23 more, which means we're going to need some help. That's what they're here for.
Adam's elves make quick work of the table laying, copying the video as closely as possible. And with the motorcycle hooked up, time for some predictions.
I'm of 2 minds about this thing. Part of me really wants to see it succeed. The other part is looking forward to the horror show of everything hitting the ground, especially on high speed. I can't tell which I want more.
We've set this whole thing up exactly like it was in the video. So if the video wasn't faked, when I take off, only the tablecloth is coming with me. Personally, nah, it's not gonna happen.
Well, with the table dressed for dinner and Jamie's need for speed, there's only one way to find out. Now for the final part of the game show made for your mind, Brain Busters. Grant's brain is in the hot seat
6.
to find out if he's using more than 10%.
And we're back for more Brain Buster Challenge. In this challenge, we will be stimulating the frontal lobe. Now, this part of the brain is used in planning, decision-making, risk-taking. So in this next test, Grant will be forced to make a decision in the face of risk.
Grant, right in your face is a 12-inch balloon. You will control its inflation by the button at your fingertips.
This is a risk and reward task.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Start to inflate.
The longer Grant inflates the balloon, the more points. However, if the balloon bursts, he'll get zilch.
Okay.
4.4.
4.4.
Inflate all the way.
My goodness. Okay.
9.3.
Wow. That was a crazy big balloon.
With his frontal lobe probed, the final challenge is flash frame.
So the next round, we are going to stimulate the occipital lobe. That is the lower back part of the brain. This is the one that helps you process visual information. Let's see how Grant does this round.
This test may look easy,
Hammock.
but Grant's occipital lobe must work hard to detect the differences.
Greenhouse. Asparagus. Mane on the zebra.
You got 4 out of 5 correct.
And for those of you playing at home, here's what Grant missed.
The clouds actually appear on the horizon.
Got it.
With that, this episode of Brain Busters is over.
So we have tested all 4 lobes of the brain. But now what we need to do is look at the EEG, crunch the data, and find out exactly how well his brain is firing.
So let's recap. We determined in small scale that it is in fact possible to remove a tablecloth under items sitting on a table without any trickery. It's just technique. The question is it possible to do it when your table has 24 place settings on it? That's what we're about to determine.
Yep, and here's a reminder of how it's supposed to look. But now, to find out if the MythBusters can pull this off.
It's all set up. You ready to ruin Christmas dinner?
I can't wait.
Uncle Jamie always does that. Get started. Monster tablecloth pull, just like the video. Go! Well, some stuff stayed on the table.
Abracadabra that, eh? Despite Jamie gunning the accelerator on the superbike, it wasn't enough to overcome the friction of 24 table settings.
Oops.
This is why we can't have nice things.
I guess so.
What a horror show.
I left some of them on the table.
That's exactly what I said. The glass is half full.
This trick worked exactly like it did in the small scale, at least for a couple of settings. The problem was the other 22 pretty much got destroyed. The thing is that these first two settings only had a couple of feet of cloth to deal with. Everything from here down had much more cloth that had to clear underneath it to do the job, and that meant that it all started to move, and a lot of it moved right onto the floor.
It's starting to look like the spectacular tablecloth strip of the video clip could be a lot more complicated than it seems.
Clearly, we got to do that again.
We got to clean up first.
Yeah, well, he who made the mess gets to clean it up. See you in a couple hours.
The MythBusters have only one thing on their mind. Do humans use only 10% of their brains? After a tense wait, Grant's brain power results are in.
So we can't wait to find out. How did Grant do through the challenges?
Well, I was happy to see that Grant did very well on his test. He compares pretty closely to normal, and all of the parts of the brain that we thought would be illuminated during the different tasks, for the most part, were.
In fact, for every test, Grant's brain activity is lit up on the EEG just where you'd expect.
We have activity right here in the temporal lobes. There was activity in the left parietal area while he was doing this math task. You can see here that we did pick up some activity in the occipital lobes in the deeper structures.
Grant's brain is working, but how much of it is engaged?
So Cynthia, what's the bottom line? Based on these tests, can you assign a percentage to the amount of my brain that I'm using?
Based on these results, we can see that the right parts of your brain were being activated during the certain tasks, but we can't really make a determination about the percentage of your brain that you were actually utilizing.
The results of the EEG tests showed us that we actually constructed these tests to excite the right parts of the brain, and in fact, they were excited in the way that we expected. Unfortunately, they were inconclusive in actually giving us a percentage that we could assign.
The EEG focuses on the surface activity of Grant's brain, so it can't provide a conclusive all-over percentage. And inconclusive just doesn't cut it for the MythBusters.
So we need another brain testing device.
I think I have just the thing. We should go to the MEG. Apparently it can give us the kind of brain mapping we're looking for.
Oh boy, I see more quizzing in our future.
Well, actually, Tori, more quizzing in your future as the team heads to UCSF Biomedical Imaging Lab, where they'll use an MEG to read Tori's mind.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Now, the magnetoencephalograph is much more comprehensive than the EEG. Any electrical current is going to produce a magnetic field. The MEG uses extremely sensitive superconducting sensors to measure the field that the brain's electrical current generates.
It's a sensitive machine that can detect even the tiniest brainwaves. And in the capable hands of the UCSF brainiacs,
You guys aren't gonna erase my memories, are you?
Don't worry.
Tori is carefully hooked up for testing.
Help me get out of here.
So we're gonna put this microphone up by your mouth so we can record what you're saying.
You're gonna leave me in here?
Bye.
Bye. Should we start at defrost and work our way up?
And now comes the hard part, a series of 4 tests to put Tori's brain to work and find out if he's using more than the mythical 10%.
All right, please start holding still.
Like the EEG, we're going to start by firing up the temporal lobe. Now, this is the one associated with memory and auditory stimulation.
Okay, Leighton, so how does this test work?
So I've trained Tori on these word pairs, and what he's going to do is he's going to hear one of the words, and he's going to speak back the word that he's been trained on that's associated with the first word.
Basket.
Tori.
Book.
Adam.
Coffee.
Grant.
He said my name. He recognizes us.
Paper.
Jamie.
So all these different numbers here are all the different channels all over his head, and they're all recording activity.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Tori completes test 1 with flying colors, and then it's on to the occipital lobe test with some familiar faces.
I feel like I'm in a Kubrick film right now.
Okay, Tori, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be looking at the screen, and there are going to be faces appearing on the screen.
Okay.
And the faces are either going to be ones that are familiar to you, like Carrie there. If you see a familiar one, you press the button with your right hand.
Okay.
If it's an unfamiliar face, one you've never seen before, like that person right there, you're going to press the left button.
Okay.
And that's it.
Hey, who's that guy? Now, the occipital test, it wasn't that hard, but it was designed to stimulate the part of my brain that visually recognizes things that I already know.
Yeah, I just saw him push a button there. Oh, that's cool.
Test number 3 is a simple math task to stimulate Tori's parietal lobe.
All right, so what's this test all about?
There's going to be a pair of numbers flashing on the screen, and the numbers can be either the same or different. And if the numbers are the same, he's going to press the left button. If they're different, he's going to press the right button.
As the numbers flash, Tori does his best to press the right buttons, but it seems the tension is getting to him inside the MEG.
Oh, try not to grit your teeth, please.
All right.
You can tell that?
Oh yeah, you can see the little squiggly lines.
Wow.
For the frontal lobe quiz, the team uses a test which seems like a simple enough combination of text and color.
What happens is a word appears on the screen, and the word is a color, either yellow or blue. And the color of the word itself can be either the same color as the word or a different color. And when the two are incongruent, it creates a cognitive conflict, and that really drives activity in the frontal lobe.
I like that one. That's cool.
It's cool, but deceptively difficult. And with all the tests complete, Tori's head is completely checked.
Hey, good job, man.
Who are you people? What year is it? All right, so tell me, am I using more than 10% of my brain?
We'll know in a couple of days. We'll have to crank on the data.
But preliminary results show that you're missing part of that frontal lobe where it tells you not to jump over red wagons with bicycles.
Can we wipe that memory from my brain? So I just came out of the MEG, and that was so cool. I mean, I'm laying there on this bed. I got wires taped to my face. They stick my head into this huge cylinder, and this MEG is so sensitive that it can detect which lobe is being activated by each test.
Now, watching over the shoulders of the technicians and seeing there's one graph where you see all of the electrodes and just what each one is reading. You can see for a certain amount of time, it's sort of a flat line, and then there's some stimulus comes up and they go whoosh, like this, you know, it's really cool to see that.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like out of some science fiction movie. But the coolest thing is, this is real. This is real science.
Real science that tells us exactly what's going on in Tori's brain.
We don't have all the data back in from all the tests yet, but I mean, right now, it's pretty obvious. We use way more than 10% of our brain. Knock on wood.
In this viral video, the motorcycle takes off and takes the tablecloth with it. But after one tragic magic trick, it's looking more like a mission improbable.
Well, that was just the horror show that I was looking for. And honestly, I'm not sure if this is going to work at all, but if it is, if there's any chance of it working, I see that there's two major problems that we've got to solve. One is there's a lot of weight on that tablecloth. I mean, one of the reasons I think the small, light, thin tablecloth works so well on the small scale is because it got out of the way. When you got heavy weight on it, it's harder for it to get out of the way. Second, is that tablecloth has to start moving faster from the get-go. It needs more of a big jerk. I'm not talking about Jamie, I'm talking about some slack in the rope so he gets up to speed and then boink, pulls it out at speed. That's what we gotta do.
That's the plan. So first, Adam gets rid of that excess weight. And just like any diet, cutting out booze is a good start.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Then with the lighter table settings back in place, the next step is to give this trick enough rope.
Here we are, 200 feet.
200 feet of line should give us the big jerk that this friction versus inertia test depends on for success.
This right here is 200 feet of nylon line coiled so that it cannot get tangled. What will happen is, I will say, okay, Pulling the tablecloth out from under the table with 200 feet of line. Go! Jamie's gonna take off on his bike. This rope is going to spool out all 200 feet of it until he reaches the end where it's going to tug on this with about 50 to 60 miles per hour worth of force, whatever that is. And I gotta say, I don't think it's going to help.
And while Adam is skeptical of the full table strip, Jamie has a case of worst-case scenario-itis.
This time around, the rope is going to pull taut, the bike's going to stop, and I'm going to keep going straight into the wall.
Well, time to find out who will survive this tablecloth tug of war. The table settings or the Heinemann?
Go!
As Jamie throttles the throttle, the line unspools and...
That was so much closer than I thought it would be.
Once again, the magic doesn't happen. But this time around, there was a lot less destruction.
Clearly, we still need to do some work, but less than I thought.
You can see the difference between this run and the last run. Most of the dishes are still on the table, and not only that, they're not broken. What that tells me is that we're on the right track, but of course, we can do better.
Look at that!
It's a little sloppy, but it's a lot better than it was the last time.
I'd say 90% of what we had stayed on the table. I mean, it all got tipped over, but it stayed on the table. That's a lot closer than I thought we'd be.
Well, you know what that means?
What?
I just need to go faster.
I'm not sure if speed is the only fix, but definitely speed will help. How fast do you think we want to go?
100 miles an hour.
You're going to need like a quarter mile to get up to that speed.
Let's go find a quarter mile.
Okay.
Did you know most people use 10% of their brains?
According to The Simpsons, this is fact. But the MythBusters are putting that to the test.
Well, this has been terrific. Let's do it again sometime.
And Tori's MEG results are in.
We're back at UCSF to get the results for Tori's MEG. This is going to tell us if our myth is confirmed. It's a really big moment for us.
Yep, so it's over to the neurologist to reveal the final percentages.
So we've got the results from the MEG. How's the myth looking?
Very interesting. I think that there's an element of truth to this myth. If you look at a 100 millisecond time scale and you're doing one thing.
Basket.
Tori.
We see about 10% of the brain active.
But that's just 1/10 of a second. What's the percentage of the brain activity during the entire challenge?
We found that the total overall brain activation was about 35%.
35%.
So the myth is busted.
Totally busted.
So the essence of the myth, I really believe, is that you're only using 10% all the time. So for that, you're pretty much saying it's busted. But what's interesting is just that 1/10 of a second. There's a little bit of plausibility there. That's really cool.
Even individually, Tori's lobes were still firing at more than 10%. So the myth is busted. But that's given our brain busters a brain wave, and they can't leave it there.
MythBusters.
So after all of our tests, we have proven that we do use more than 10% of our brain. But now it's time to go deeper to find out exactly how much or how little of our brain we use. So we're here at UCSF to get an fMRI, a functional magnetic resonance image. This should be interesting.
The fMRI will get to the heart of Tori's brain and find out just how much and how little it's capable of.
So everyone's heard of an MRI, but today we're using a functional MRI, or fMRI. It's a little bit different process. Here's how it works. When your neurons are firing, that causes increased blood flow. Now, blood that has high oxygen content has a different electromagnetic signature than blood that has a low oxygen content. So, when your neurons are firing, the blood's flowing in that area, the fMRI picks that up as increased activity in a specific part of your brain.
Once again, Lab Rat Tori is ready for testing. But instead of quizzes, this time they're doing things slightly differently.
All right, engage.
You're such a nerd.
Newsflash. So the first test that Tori's going to take in the fMRI is going to be the bare minimum of activity. He's going to be at rest with his eyes closed.
Okay, Tori, what I need you to do is try to stay still and stay awake for the next 8 minutes. Here we go.
And that way we can see, when you're doing absolutely nothing, how much of your brain you're actually using.
That's insane.
So that's what he looks like as a zombie.
Even at rest, it seems that Tori's brain is still very active.
That's so cool.
And eventually, after 8 minutes, it's time for test 2.
We're going to try to have Tori fire up every lobe of the brain and the cerebellum all at once. Now, to do that, we're going to have him tell a story out loud. The story is going to involve trauma, recollection, order of events, all sorts of things that we can see all of the brain firing at once.
Okay, Tori, we're going to do the storytelling part of the experiment. We're going to begin.
So one day, we were out riding bikes.
Interestingly, Tori's traumatic story involves an unfortunate bike accident.
Got pretty scary.
He's lighting up like a Christmas tree there.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, as he's telling the story, there's activity in a lot of brain regions. So you can see these parts of the frontal lobe in either hemisphere active as he's telling the story. Now he's taking a break and you can see the activity go down. And when he hears himself tell the story, you can see activity in the auditory cortex and the temporal lobe light up.
That's great.
And with Tori's story over, he's ejected from the test tube.
The interesting thing about our test today is that at rest, your brain is using so much more than I actually expected.
I feel like a lab rat. Yeah.
I mean, I knew that when you were going to tell a traumatic story or you're doing something interesting that you're going to have a lot of things firing. But when you're just sitting there doing nothing, you're already looking like you're using more than 10%.
When magic works, it makes you believe the impossible is possible. But so far, this tablecloth takeoff looks like it could be just smoke and mirrors. So the MythBusters have come to Alameda to find out if they can pull this one off at 100 miles per hour.
Show off! Tablecloth pull 101. We tried it in scale in the shop and learned that you need a thin tablecloth with no hem and a good sharp pull. So then we went into a warehouse and we tried replicating exactly what we saw in the video, and this happened. Then we thought, what if we pulled the tablecloth much faster? So we added 200 foot of rope between the motorcycle and the tablecloth. Jamie got up to about 50 miles an hour, and this happened. But we wanted to know what it would take to do it for reals. So the table is set. Jamie is warming up the motorcycle, and in a few minutes, we're gonna try the world's biggest tablecloth pull.
But before they do that, first they need to find out just how long it will take Jamie to get up to speed on his bike.
Woo! Wah! 91. 97, ladies and gentlemen. 200 yards will be the length of the rope we attached between Jamie's motorcycle and her tablecloth. It will be leaving the table at 100 miles an hour, or something else catastrophic will happen.
And to prevent China carnage, increasing the speed is not the only change they're making today.
We've considered that one of the biggest stresses on the tablecloth for the success of this effect is the overall weight of everything on this table, and thus we have reduced it by at least half. We've replaced all the cast aluminum flower pots and champagne buckets with actually stainless steel ones with smoother bottoms. We've replaced all the ceramic plateware with plastic plateware. We're hoping that that lighter weight will actually make this much more possible.
Remember, this trick is a battle between inertia and friction. So reducing the weight of the table settings means the friction should decrease. That's the idea, but Jamie, for one, is still skeptical that this will work even at 100 miles per hour.
When I take off on this bike, 600 feet of line is going to pay out, and it's going to yank the tablecloth off the table at 100 miles an hour. Hopefully all the dishes will remain in place and intact. But what really is going to happen is hard to say. 100 miles an hour is awfully quick, but If the dishes just move a little bit and they stay upright, we're golden.
I still don't think it's going to work. Even with all this, I don't think it's going to work. But again, I'm usually wrong, so you should probably bet the opposite.
Well, with the preparations complete, it's the moment of truth.
You ready to do this?
Yep.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. Possibly the world's biggest tablecloth pull in 3, 2, 1, go! Was the best attempt so far. And still we have destruction. But hey, I was right.
It's the closest they've come to success, with half the table intact. But the high speed reveals that there was a hitch.
We can tell by looking at the high speed that a rip occurred on the front corner of the table because the tablecloth is being pulled down slightly, and the sharp square corner eventually made a little bit of a start of a rip, and then it was all over. We can fix that.
It's a simple fix, and while Jamie takes the edge off, Adam whips up another tablecloth. And once the repairs are finished, the table is set for take 2.
All right, tablecloth pull with 600 feet of rope at 100 miles per hour. Mr. Heineman, go!
Jamie gets up to 100 miles per hour. The line pulls and...
Oh, here it comes. Oh! 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 I'm starting to think this isn't possible. Actually, I'm halfway through thinking this isn't possible. I'm almost finished thinking that this isn't possible.
Yep, because once again, the tablecloth was the weak link and ripped in half.
On the last round, everything was going great, except for the tablecloth ripped right in the middle. So we're going back and yet again tweaking things. Hopefully it'll work this time.
A few tweaks, a brand new tablecloth, and another perfectly laid table later, and they're ready for attempt number 3.
Hope it works. Tablecloth pull, 600 feet of line, 100 miles an hour, Jamie, go! Well, that is certainly as good as it gets. Plate's still rolling. They faked it! Totally faked it!
They almost pulled that one off. But even a perfect run at 100 miles per hour still wasn't enough to leave the table intact.
That's not bad. Not bad at all. Everything slid, especially on the front half. We lost a few place settings. Most everything is still standing, but honestly, you know what I'm thinking?
What?
They faked it.
Yeah, they faked it. It's busted.
Yeah, totally busted.
Busted. But on MythBusters, that can only mean one thing.
That run wasn't half bad. In fact, it was pretty darn good, but it wasn't what we saw in the clip. So that's what we got to do next. We're going to have to fake it.
They're gonna fry my brain.
The MythBusters have been picking Tori's brain to find out just what it can do. And now the results are in.
So Leighton, from the results that you were looking at, overall total percentage, how much was Tori using at resting point?
So when we're looking at the brain at rest, if we look at 3 major networks in the brain, the visual network, the auditory network, the sensory motor network, if you put those 3 networks together, even at rest when he's not doing anything at all, that accounts for about 15% of total brain activity. You can kind of think of it as an engine in a car idling. You know, when the car engine is idling, you know, as soon as you press the gas to go or when you do a task, that's when brain activity gets greater. But at rest, even when he's doing nothing at all, about 15% of the brain in these three networks are working together.
The scans for Tori at rest clearly show that even though his body is inactive, his brain certainly isn't.
All right, so this is the test where I'm trying to recall a story and try to use as many lobes as possible. What did I come up with?
When you're telling the story, we see activity in the frontal lobe, in the temporal lobe, in the visual lobe, and also in the limbic lobe as you're experiencing the emotional content of the story. And there, across the brain, we see about 30% of the total brain volume active.
That's the most brain power for any individual test across all the different scans. With all of Tori's lobes engaged, his brain maxed out at a huge 30%.
So in order to get to the very core of the problem, and in fact the core of the brain, the cerebellum, we used fMRI technology. And we got some very interesting results. Even at zero activity, which was no stimulus, eyes closed, no movement, Tori had more than 10% brain activity. So what's the bottom line? Well, even with all of our tests, EEG, MEG, fMRI, you're definitely using more than 10% of your brain.
It's obvious that even at 100 miles per hour, this trick can't be done without devious deception. So it's back to where it all began, Fort Mason, for some tablecloth trickery.
So how do we fake this? Well, if the opening titles are correct, Jamie and I have a lot of special effects experience, and it's true, we actually have an idea for how to fake this. It looks a little something like this. What's different about this setup than its predecessor? Actually, quite a lot. I started out by treating the entire tablecloth with a dry lubricant made for sailboat sails, and that should actually reduce its coefficient of friction. But most importantly, I then laid down on top of the tablecloth a sheet of plastic, 24 feet long, and mounted at the non-motorcycle end of the table. And then we set the table as normal. What this means is that between all the place settings on the tablecloth is a thin membrane on which everything sits. So the tablecloth should, in theory, slip out easy as you please without disturbing anything on the table. That's how I think they did it. Boy, I hope this works.
It'll work.
That's it. Let's try it. This is tablecloth pull, the cheat. 3, 2, 1, go!
This is it. Will they finally be able to pull a fast one and make the tablecloth disappear?
And that's how it's done. Congratulations, we did it.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, we disturbed one fork and that was it.
I'll settle for that.
So will I.
Just like the Hollywood saying, you have to fake it till you make it. And that's mission accomplished.
Well, we replicated the results. Where does that leave the story, the myth?
There's no way they could have done this without faking it. It's busted.
I totally agree. It's busted. Let's get out of here.
On this all-you-can-eat episode of MythBusters,
Come out to the coast, we'll have some fun.
the culinary chemist himself joins Adam and Jamie
This is an entire buffet of potential doom for me.
to turn up the heat on some food folklore.
Ow! I'm kidding. I totally didn't cut myself.
First, it's takeout taken to the limit.
Let's do it. MythBusters road trip.
As they try to spark up a massive family feast on the engine of a family car.
Starting to smell anything?
And definitely sweet potato.
Then the guys crank up the pressure
Reminds me of water heaters about to explode.
as they test if you really can make instant popcorn.
Cooking in a bomb suit, only on this show.
Meanwhile, Carrie, Tori, and Grant see if the turkey's to blame for that Thanksgiving stupor.
This is like man versus food.
Then they put the knife to the culinary cliche that says many white meats,
What's that with the head right there?
no matter how suspect the species, really do taste like chicken.
Whoa. That was definitely not chicken.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
It's scientific!
And Jamie Heineman.
Quack, damn you.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Carrie Byron,
Golden Dragon!
Tori Belleci,
Why are we doing this?
and Grant Imahara.
Somebody order an explosion?
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, a myth that puts the hot back into hot rod.
We never eat together. What's all this?
We are not going to eat together, we are going to cook together.
How so?
Well, we've gathered a bunch of stories over the years that involve cooking edible food in things never intended for cooking. Things like pressure vessels, cars, and even dishwashers. I think we should tackle these stories, and I think we should bring a little bit of science to it.
Well, if we're going to do it, we better get it right.
I agree.
In fact, I think we might be able to use a little help. And come to think of it, I might have just the thing downstairs.
Awesome. So you've got the cooking help we need on the wall?
Somewhere here. Oh, there it is. AB.
Hey, guys. What's cooking?
Alton Brown's not just an author and a famous TV chef. He's also obsessed with the science of food. And that qualifies him as the perfect partner for our first food fable.
Adam, I assume that you did not bring me here simply to cater lunch.
No, we actually have a pretty interesting, weird cooking challenge.
Do tell.
Americans love driving. The time of year they drive the most is often around the holidays.
Yep.
And we know that people have claimed you can cook things in your engine compartment. So bringing those two things together, we are wondering, could you set up a meal in your car so that when you drove to a holiday dinner, you arrived with the dinner fully cooked? I'm thinking Thanksgiving.
It's going to depend a lot on the vehicle. We're going to need, we need big. We need like V8 to 12. An older vehicle because new is too plasticky and not enough space.
On that front, I think we've got it locked. Check this out.
Acquiring the auto is left to Jamie, and this is exactly what the chef ordered. But the moment they pop the hood, Alton sees problems as well as potential. Welcome to MythBusters.
There's not quite as much space as I expected.
We've got some space over here.
Yeah, over the exhaust manifold?
Yeah.
Is it covered with a shield?
It is. We're gonna have to pull that.
With usable oven space surprisingly scarce, Alton looks for some alternate hotspots.
Right. Yeah, there's some space under here. Maybe we could also get to the catalytic converter. It's probably gonna be the hottest thing. Oh man, it needs to degreaser, that's for sure.
Cooking a Thanksgiving dinner on this engine block presents a few problems right off the bat. One, even though we got a beautiful big old American boat of a car, there's not as much room as we were hoping around this engine. Secondly, because space is at a premium, we're gonna need to find where it's hottest. Perfect.
So before they start cooking with gasoline, they'll need a dry run to see which bits of the engine are fan-forced. And here's how they'll do it.
This thing right here is a thermocouple, or a temperature sensor, and we're going to put a bunch of these all over inside the engine compartment to see where our best sources of heat are.
The plug ends of all those thermocouples will meet here at this computer interface where, from inside the car, we'll be able to monitor all of those temperatures simultaneously. Isn't that cool?
The results should be especially enlightening for Alton to help plan the meal. Just now, he's wishing he never left the kitchen.
Come out to the coast, we'll have some fun.
But good times are just around the corner.
With our temperature monitoring equipment installed, it's time to take this boat out onto the road and find out just what kind of cooking vessel our driving vessel might actually be. Let's do it.
If this behemoth is a boat, then these two black and whites must be the Coast Guard. We actually need these guys if we're filming on the highway, but still.
It's hard to believe with these cops that we haven't actually done anything wrong.
Yeah, there's a good escort and there's a bad escort.
This is no mere spin around the block. To collect the kind of data they need means taking a nice long drive out of town and into the countryside.
We're trying to determine what's happening inside that engine while we drive, where it's hot, where it's not, and how the way we drive affects both of those things. Because we need to figure out where we're going to place each type of food in the engine, because those places need to be ideal to cook the types of food that we're cooking.
90 minutes out, it's time to turn this coupe cooktop around. But not before a hands-on inspection of the hot plates.
It's feeling really good and hot right in here. What's our contact on the air cleaner?
I'm getting 125 direct contact, and the infrared's reading 136.8. I think if we can just work out our spatial relationships and make sure we get containers that fit the volume, we're gonna be in good shape.
So far, with about an hour of city driving and a half hour of open road driving, the results we're getting are incredibly, incredibly promising. It looks like we're not only gonna have a full Thanksgiving dinner, we might even get dessert. All right, let's head back to the shop.
Okay.
Next up, it's time to talk turkey.
Okay, so Surreal Gourmet, what have we got?
All right, this one is really popular on the message boards. In fact, it's been around forever. It's that turkey makes you tired.
Because of the tryptophan, right?
Exactly. Turkey contains tryptophan. Tryptophan can make you tired. In fact, it's sold as a sleep aid. So next time you feel sleepy after a Thanksgiving meal, you can blame the bird.
That's the myth.
What would you answer that, dear?
Happy Thanksgiving.
But is turkey meat the real culprit in this traditional passing out parade?
Oh, what a beautiful bird.
Or will this myth's goose get cooked?
Since this myth is all about tiredness, I think reaction time is how we should test it.
Right.
Why don't we come up with a control test that tests our reaction time, and then we'll have multiple tests where we try different amounts of turkey and even try tryptophan.
And since I don't eat turkey, that makes you two the guinea pigs.
Sounds great to me. Let the feasting begin.
But before Grant ties on his best bib, the boys need to give Carrie some baseline response times.
Now, you know when you're tired, your reaction time is slow. Cue arcade lighting. This is Whack a MythBuster. They're gonna bounce for 45 seconds. They get a point for every time they hit one of their coworkers.
First up is a fit and wide-awake Tory.
3, 2, 1.
It seems he's in pretty good form.
Take that, Carrie.
Great vision,
Kind of weird to whack myself.
fast reactions, and just the right balance of homicidal intent.
All right, so in 45 seconds, I was able to rack up 61 points. That is my control.
All Grant needs to do is set his own reaction time baseline. But it's hard to resist going one up on Tory.
66. Not bad.
Next, before munching the meal of the myth, they need to confirm that tryptophan does actually make you tired.
What is tryptophan? Well, it's an amino acid that's in turkey, and that's the thing that people say causes you to become sleepy. We're going to be taking it in its pure capsule form, in an amount that's been approved by both our nutritionist and our safety officer.
The dose is much more than in any turkey dinner. And after 45 minutes, it's clear the guys aren't at their perky peaks.
Feeling tryptophantastic?
I feel tripped out. All right, we're ready to do this test on tryptophan. Here we go, Whack a MythBuster.
Of course, this all comes down to the numbers, but you'd have to say tired out Tory looks about as sharp as a bowling ball. After 45 undeniably sluggish seconds,
49 from a 61 to a 49.
Now to see if a groggy Grant fares any better.
One thing I know about Grant is he gets really cranky when he's tired. My God, you're getting really angry.
I think the tryptophan's working. All right. Well, it's definitely affected your anger, but it looks like it's affecting your score. You got a 60. Last time you got a 66.
Yeah, I feel like they were coming so fast.
The results are conclusive. Tryptophan does dim the light in your lamp. But a little white pill is not your typical holiday feast. So Tori and Grant will soon sacrifice their stomachs for science.
Now, we've found out that tryptophan definitely makes you tired. So the question is, will a traditional turkey meal make you tired? Now, for that, I've prepared a delicious home-cooked meal at Shea Byron. And behind me is Dr. Applegate. She's a nutrition professor at UC Davis, and she's going to help me with the planning of my Thanksgiving meal.
Well, what I designed was a series of 3 meals. Let's give them a big, hefty Thanksgiving meal, complete with turkey, stuffing, gravy, mashed potatoes, the whole bit. And that way we can see how a big meal with a lot of tryptophan in it settles with them with reaction time. And then give them a second meal that is all the same number of calories, but instead pull the turkey out and give them another protein source that has no tryptophan in it.
What Dr. Liz has designed is a surefire way to see if it's the tryptophan in turkey or the sheer volume of food that turns us all into mashed couch potatoes. Day 1 is a typically over-the-top Thanksgiving dinner with real turkey and all the trimmings. Day 2 is a meal with the same insane calorie count, but a turkey substitute with no tryptophan. For good measure, Day 3's menu is the same as Day 1, but scaled back to the size of an everyday dinner. Carrie will compare their reaction times after each meal, and that should settle this myth. The first offering is that once-a-year feast that has us all frothing with fervor.
We have all the basics here, the sweet potato casserole, apple pie, turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans. Now I'm going to plate up the food based on their height and weight. Their caloric intake will be, Tori, 2,420 calories, and Grant, 2,200 calories. I'm feeling tired already just thinking about this.
Oh my God, that looks amazing. This is like man versus food.
Do you guys just need to feel the mood? Do you want some awkward Thanksgiving conversation?
Yes, please.
So, Tori, when are you gonna marry that girl and give me some grandkids?
Don't ruin my dining experience, please.
Grant, you've been a bachelor for a long time. Are you ever gonna settle down?
Like I need this from you.
Let's fast forward from awkward to downright unpleasant. No offense to Carrie's cooking, but just when they figure this ordeal is almost over, they discover it's not.
You don't want to forget dessert.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Where's the ice cream? Who made this calorie count?
Scientists!
Oh my God. I'm having trouble hearing. I'm having trouble breathing. This is interesting. All right, bring on the pie.
When the pie's polished off,
brilliant.
Our 2 hearty heroes can finally loosen their pants.
Done.
Yay! You guys did it.
I hate you.
Now it's time for Sweatpants, the Couch, and MythBusters Marathon. It is Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
Nope, it's time for testing. Come on.
The boys can at least be thankful that the tests are short and sweet.
Nothing like a little exercise after a heavy meal.
Then they can take a nap.
The numbers are in, and it looks as though the classic turkey dinner actually had an equivalent effect to the tryptophan. The boys were tired, the reaction times were slow, but the question is, was it the turkey in that big dinner that actually did this to them? So, the next step is to give them an equivalent amount of food and caloric intake, but take out the turkey and give them a low tryptophan protein source. It'll be interesting to see if it actually slows them down.
Adam, Jamie, and culinary mastermind Alton Brown are about to prove it's not the destination, but the journey that counts. They've just done a test run to see if a car engine could potentially cook a family-size holiday feast. The trip supplied a massive data and a graph that's a joy to behold.
The catalytic converter is the orange, exhaust manifold cover is the blue. Those were both in the 400 and 500 degree range. Then we've got the transmission oil pan and the regular oil pan. That's the brown and the green. Both of those hovered right around 200 degrees. But here's something interesting. This here, the wavy part, front and back, that's city driving to and from the shop. When we were stopped, we often got these temperature spikes up to 200 degrees.
Well, it makes sense because there's less air moving through the engine compartment when you're still.
I guess you're right.
The readouts confirm their conjecture. that some engine components get way hotter than others.
And this is actually a good thing because not all food wants to be treated the same way. We might want to have something that's fairly easy to cook, like some vegetables down in these lower zones, and we might want to have something that really needs to roast, like the turkey, up high.
Now we're done with the theory. It's high time for some hustle. Jamie and Adam need to either modify,
Just a little more and I'll have a nice tight food container.
or hand build some food flasks. Meanwhile, Alton's got 2 whole birds to brine. And before he starts prepping the rest of the food, there's that little conundrum of what to put where.
There and there, so that's a turkey leg and a turkey leg. We're gonna confit and those big ones. That's Jamie's idea. Let's see how that goes.
It's already enough of a head scratcher without this added challenge. Baking a batch of mini pumpkin pies he's never even tested in a real oven.
Remember, kids, when you grow up, you can lick the bowl all you want.
While Adam helps in the kitchen, Jamie soups up the V8 cooktop.
Basically what I'm doing here is using the car's exhaust manifold as a heating element, and I'm insulating all the way around it, just like an oven, leaving only that exposed. Our canisters of food will sit right on top of that, and then the whole thing will get covered with more insulation.
There's no getting away from it. This is one peculiar picnic. The preparation's been all they could hope for. But now that it's almost showtime, the chef has the jitters.
All right, this is an entire buffet of potential doom for me, but here we go. We've broken the turkey into 3 pieces. We've got the breast lobes and the rib cage here, exhaust manifold. Legs, confit style in olive oil and thyme in this canister and this canister next to the exhaust manifold up top. We've got the thighs sitting upon beds of herbs. This is going in your special catalytic converter box on top of the catalytic converter. Dressing underneath the transmission, more sweet potatoes and maple that are gonna go in this sweet device underneath the catalytic converter. Here we have our pies. Nice job on this. This is going to go over the air cleaner, which we will tint to make sure that we don't get anything into it. I've got some sweet potatoes. I'm just going to kind of shove in nooks and crannies. I'm going to do the same thing with the lemon. That's going to go with the asparagus. Hopefully this gravy is going to be delicious on top of the turkey. And we've also got Brussels sprouts and blue cheese and creamed corn with rosemary. I'm also hiding 1 turkey leg someplace just for me in case everything else goes to hell in a handbasket.
And we'd have to admit it wouldn't be the first time.
We've done a lot of things on this show that, well, they're not exactly practical.
If you'd like to slide under here from the front bumper of the car.
And this is one of those things. You're better off with an oven, but the attempt is interesting. I mean, we've mapped out the temperatures of this entire car to find where we can cook these things. So if it's possible, we're gonna do it.
That's it, guys. We're good under here.
With the turkey, sides, and desserts securely stowed, it's time this movable feast hit the highway.
All right, we got a car full of food and 4 hours to cook Thanksgiving dinner. Let's go.
Hit it.
MythBusters road trip.
After gobbling their way through a gigantic holiday feast, Tori and Grant's reaction times hit a new low. But was it down to the turkey? We're about to find out. Today's meal is just as massive, but the turkey's been traded for a protein powder that carries mixed in with the mashed potatoes.
Dinner.
What do you have for us?
Lots and lots of delicious dinner. Saul's turkey.
Oh my God, so this is the same amount of calorie count, but there's no turkey.
Dig in. Oh, wait, there's more. You don't want to forget the gravy.
That looks like snot.
After looking at this meal, particularly the consistency of what I'm trying to eat here, I think that this is going to block up my entire system, and I predict that I will be very, very tired.
It's been said we eat first with our eyes. If that's true, it's a miracle this stuff ever gets to the mouth.
I have noticed that the boys seem a little more tired, sleepy, lethargic since they started this experiment. About the equivalent amount of sleepiness that I saw with the turkey dinner. Just a little more disgust.
This is gonna ruin Thanksgiving forever.
It's clear that the guys aren't exactly grazing with gusto, but after 90 minutes of munching, they're done.
Now it's time to find out if it's the turkey that actually made them tired in that big Thanksgiving meal that they had before. Do we even need to do the test?
Now, certified turkey tryptophan-free, Tori
48, not bad.
It's not good.
and Grant do their level best to recapture the form
42.
of their first control test.
Looked like that affected your ability to hit the little heads.
But they fail. Meal 2's data is remarkably similar to Meal 1's, which means that turkey's not looking like the coma culprit. But to settle this once and for all,
Thanksgiving again?
Again.
it's on to the more modest Thanksgiving meal that does include turkey. If there's anything to this myth, we should see some adverse reactions, even from a sensible serving. It's now lunchtime on day 3.
So we've actually gotten the food to a smaller proportions, kept the turkey the same size, and we're gonna see if it is in fact the turkey that's making us drowsy. But right now, I don't feel very drowsy.
Meantime, Grant looks like he hasn't eaten since August.
This is good. I think it'll be a good test.
I'm done. Good crust, by the way.
All right, let's go do the test.
You guys don't seem too tired.
Oh.
All right.
It's make or break time for the turkey makes you tired myth. If the reaction time is slow on this test, it's myth confirmed. If the reaction time is more like the control, it's myth busted.
Grant's first up to bat.
Oh my God, the focus. I don't think the turkey's making you tired. Wow, 67, that's even better than your control.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, can Tori back up that astounding achievement?
63.
I beat my control test. This one's looking busted.
Yep, it's rare to get proof this positive, but it's clear that the turkey's a foul call. For this culinary coma, you can't blame the bird.
So I guess turkey did not make you tired. Turkey did not make you tired. This is busted.
It's totally busted. It's not the turkey that makes you tired. It's the amount of food that you eat.
It's the gluttony.
The calories are what get you.
So, what can I do for you fellas?
Well, we have a particular MythBusters challenge we thought you might be interested in.
We have been told that it is possible to cook a lasagna using nothing but a dishwasher.
We got to get some data. I mean, we've got to know a lot more about the oven, as it were, before we can build.
Let's check out the dishwasher.
Let's go.
To have any chance of confirming this cooking cliffhanger, they'll need to know exactly what temperatures they can expect to reach and for how long.
That's what we want to find out here. So I'm going to drill a hole in the side of the casing where we can insert a temperature probe or thermocouple while the dishwasher's going through its cycles. We also want to see what's going on inside, so we've made a piece of glass that will actually replace the door while it's running. We can't pull the door all the way off, otherwise none of these switches will actually work. But with the glass in place, we should be able to see exactly where it gets hot and where we want to cook our lasagna.
There's nothing like a bit of hands-on research, and it's so much more fun than just reading the manual.
I have always wanted to watch one of these things run with a pane of glass in it. This is like a fulfillment of a childhood dream for me.
It's a prospect so enticing that, just for a minute, they've almost forgotten the myth.
What I want to know is why there aren't more glass front. Oh, you know why? I do know why there aren't glass front machines, because they're noisy.
I would totally deal with the noise if I could watch this.
I'd pull a chair up, though. It's like a lava lamp, except you get clean dishes out of it. All right, the probe.
Adam expertly inserts the thermocouple through the hole in the side.
Perfect.
And the wash cycle they hope to make a cooking cycle begins.
All right, so now we're in the honest-to-goodness wash phase.
What temperature we've got?
It's hovering around 130. Right now it's about 125.
Well, that's getting up there.
Yeah, I'd really like to see it get up to 140 just for meat safety. Prolonged, time at that temperature would be good. Don't look at this for a long time, it'll hypnotize you. I look away every 5 or 6 seconds just to kind of clear my retina.
But even after 2 hours at the maximum setting, this kitchen's heat stands at just 136, meaning it's time to get cooking on a refined recipe.
Our dishwasher's temperature hovers between 130 and 140. How does that dictate what kind of lasagna we should make?
We're gonna go with classic lasagna ingredients. We're gonna cut things thinner than we might ordinarily. As for the vessel, we're gonna use something that is a little wider and longer than I would normally use, in aluminum, which is a really good conductor.
All right.
This isn't the most dangerous thing they've ever done, but it pays to take care when your skills aren't as sharp as your tools.
Don't try this at home. Ow! I'm kidding. I totally didn't cut myself.
Under expert guidance,
You can throw in a little bit of this Italian seasoning.
the lasagna comes together layer by layer
Say one on the sauce.
Yeah, win on the sauce.
as Alton browns off the meat.
Smells good.
And he's not fudging here. It's standard practice to saute the sausage before it hits the oven.
Oh, yeah.
When the boss calls a halt to construction,
You're not afraid of grease, are you?
No.
Oh, what the heck?
Adam learns the true meaning of a packed lunch.
Put that on there and squeeze the bejeebers out of it. No air in there. I think you got it.
All right.
I think it's dead. Good.
Okay.
I just need a lid. Foil, heavy-duty aluminum would be best.
And to make double sure that the lid doesn't leak, Jamie's rustled up something even Alton's never used in a kitchen. Aluminum tape.
Will it hold?
Oh, yeah. This will hold.
Seems like it's not going anywhere.
I think we're good. I think that's as sealed as it can get.
All right. Let's wash it.
Let's go.
The lasagna is locked and loaded into the pots and pans cycle. It's still anyone's guess whether that'll be hot enough to cook food, but at least the tray should be clean.
And starting.
You'll notice that we've turned the lasagna upside down, and that's because we don't want water to pool in a reservoir on top of it. We want the heat inside the dishwasher to be able to circulate as closely as possible all the way around the lasagna.
The clock is running. Water's coming in, and well, we're thinking probably in 2.5 hours, we'll be eating.
Excellent.
Excellent. Or inedible. You'd normally bake this at 375 degrees for around 50 minutes, not 135 for over 2 hours. And I might just add that you can't preheat a dishwasher.
We don't just have to hope that this is going to work without any information about what's going on during the experiment. We have embedded a thermocouple right into the middle of our lasagna that's giving us a temperature reading.
True to the testing, the temperature finally settles in the mid-130s. It's just a matter of watch and wait, till hunger and boredom take their toll. So much for this being the new lava lamp.
I think it's time. How long has it been?
It is indeed time. 2 hours, 42 minutes. I think we're there. You know, it could go a little longer, but I'm hungry.
Let's eat.
Let's go.
All right, here we go.
There's always something satisfying about a meal you cook yourself, and something ultra satisfying about one you cook on a pots and pan cycle.
There it is.
Now, is this a culinary triumph or a tray full of tepid and tortured pasta?
Ladies and gentlemen, look at that.
It's not exactly crispy on top.
It was never going to be crispy, Jamie. Why do you... This is why we can't have nice things.
For a good time.
Yes.
It's a wet cooking method. We were never going to have.
I know. The test is in the taste.
Oh, the vegetables look done. It's perfectly serviceable.
That's absolutely serviceable. That's delicious. A meal cooked in the dishwasher. And a good meal.
It's quite good, actually. The cheese is melted. Everything's very tasty.
I don't know that I would remove an oven and install another dishwasher specifically for cooking.
But in a pinch.
In a pinch, you can do it. And on a bet, for sure.
On a bet. That's it. We've settled a bet here. You can cook a lasagna in your dishwasher.
So if you're happy to wait almost 3 hours for lunch, just one appliance can cook and clean up.
Here, here.
Okay, so the next one up for us is, does any unusual meat taste like chicken?
Oh, that is a classic, and I've always wanted to test it. It's when somebody tries to convince you to eat some weird meat like turtle or crocodile, and they tell you it tastes like chicken.
But is that because the meat actually tastes like chicken, or it's just a nice, easy, familiar way to describe it?
The white meat in chicken is mostly a fast twitch muscle fiber. And one theory holds that animals with similar muscles might well have a similar taste. To test this myth, we'll need 2 volunteers who aren't in the least bit chicken.
Okay, so given that I'm not gonna do any of the eating, how about I go to an exotic butcher, find the weirdest meats I can, and then I'll do a blind taste test where I'll feed you the weird meats as well as chicken, and you just have to tell me if it's chicken or not chicken.
I'm gonna start pretending like I'm a vegetarian from now on.
So the special menu is all down to Carrie. In a way, she's just returning a favor.
Now, the last time Tori and Grant had to organize a meal for me, they went to a very exotic place to buy food.
To Cold Feet.
And warm bugs.
And got all sorts of interesting choices. Chicken feet, scorpions, entrails. I have a feeling revenge is gonna taste like chicken. Where do you keep your exotic meats?
Right here in front of you.
Ooh. Oh yeah, this is the perfect spot. What's that with the head right there?
That is called squab.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna need one of those.
All right.
Some snake.
This is a diamondback.
That is real. That is really real. And I'll take the turtle, the alligator, the ostrich. I'll take all of that.
All righty.
Wrap it up.
At some time, all these meats have been said to taste like chicken.
Peacock, goat, turtle, snake, frog, bon appetit, suckers.
And we'll soon see if the boys can pick a bullfrog from a buffalo wing. David Lawrence is executive chef at a well-known restaurant here in San Francisco. And one of his signature dishes is fried chicken.
All right, chef. So it's important for this myth that we prepare everything in the same way. What's the plan here?
The plan here is we're going to do it very much how we do fried chicken here at 1300. We're very famous for that. So I've marinated it all the same way, just how we do with our fried chicken. And I've prepared a batter for it, and we're going to just bread it in the batter. And I'm going to start with the peacock. And as you can see, it looks like chicken. And I have some snake for you.
Whoa, weird.
As you can see, they've all been marinated the same batter. And now we're ready to fry them. Okay?
Start the magic.
Okay. Oh, the frizzle.
All up, they're cooking 9 different kinds of exotic meat and 11 servings of chicken. And after a foul fry-up, it's time for the dinner bell.
Let the fun begin.
Absolutely.
All right, nice place. This is what I'm talking about.
I hear the squirrel is awesome here.
Okay, so here's the experiment. We have 20 different meats. You will be blindfolded. I'm going to cut a bite and feed it to you, and you just have to say chicken or not chicken. But, so that you don't influence each other, they will not be from the same plate.
Wait, you're gonna feed us?
Yep.
And so begins surely one of the strangest meals ever served.
Let's do it.
A blindfold banquet of peacock and ostrich and diamondback rattler with a chicken chaser.
Open, Grant.
That's not chicken.
Not chicken. Although delicious.
Definitely chicken. Oh, that's delicious. Moist, flavorful. That was chicken.
I'm pretty sure that was not chicken.
Ori.
Oh, that ain't chicken. That's definitely not chicken. I don't know what that is, but it's not chicken.
Here comes the train. It's going into the tunnel.
That is one tough train.
Chicken or not chicken?
Maybe if it was like overcooked chicken, but I'm gonna say no on the chicken.
How about yours?
Not chicken.
At the end of the meal, there's no coffee and pie, just a scorecard.
Tori, you got 17 out of 20 correct. And Grant, you did a little better than guessing. You got 11 out of 20. What?
I can't believe you got 17 out of 20. Wow.
I can't believe you have no idea what you're putting in your mouth.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's way too soon to call for the check. Either result could push the case for chicken confusion in either direction. But Tori's hit on a point that might have skewed the last taste test. And he's found a solution.
Now, we tried 20 different samples, and I was able to pick 17 out of the 20. That ain't chicken. But I'll tell you what, the texture was a dead giveaway. I mean, as soon as I felt some kind of different texture, I knew it wasn't chicken, and then the taste was a little off from the chicken. What was that? That was definitely not chicken. So I think what we need to do is get rid of texture altogether, We need to like grind this meat up and just focus on the taste.
Sounds like a plan, but a meal of minced birds and reptiles just might come back to bite them. Now for a brief interlude on behalf of America's favorite fast snack.
Alton, I'd bet you're kind of a badass when it comes to cooking popcorn.
I'd like to think I've got skills.
So have you investigated the very fastest method for cooking popcorn?
I've tried about 40 different methods. I think I've got it pretty quick.
Okay, in this box purports to be the very fastest ever method for cooking popcorn. Check this out.
Reveal it.
You gotta be kidding me.
I heard of these things, but I didn't think they really existed.
But before they unleash the beast to see if it really is the world's fastest, they need a time to beat.
Do me a favor, measure me out half a cup of those guys.
This is what charted #1 on Alton's Top 40.
Jamie, will you pull out a piece of foil that'll be big enough to crimp over that whole bowl there? 3 tablespoons of oil. Dump that in. Wrap and crimp the bowl, please, if you would, sir. Are we ready?
We are.
Begin the sequence.
Timer's going.
Go full flame. Make a little shake action. This is about as fast a method as I've got.
Oh, that was quick for the first pop.
What time? How much time?
1:06.
Come on, baby, pop. I like watching them kind of jump up and hit the underside of the foil.
And when it sounds like the popping is just about done, they've set a time that even beats the pants off most microwave brands. Now to see if this mysterious Oriental ordinance can top it. It's essentially a pressure vessel that really is meant to just pop popcorn. It's made in China, and after carefully translating the instructions, it's decided that discretion is the better part of deliciousness.
This is supposedly the fastest popcorn cooker in the West. Either that or it's a bomb.
The instructions, which we translated from the Mandarin, call for 2 to 3 whopping cups of popcorn. We're going with the maximum.
On Adam's say-so, I'll light the flame, and when this reaches 1 megapascal, which is 1 on the dial,
At which point the water inside the popcorn should have vaporized and the starch liquefied, but it will not pop until we relieve the pressure.
At that point, Jamie will turn off the flame, I will place this whole thing upright, pop that lever, which either will make us all dead or give us all some popcorn to enjoy. Cooking in a bomb suit, only on this show.
If we just find pieces, can I have your watch?
Absolutely.
It's not the simplest way to make popcorn. Jamie lights the gas, and Adam rotates the pressure vessel like a cast iron pig on a spit. Hence, the bomb suit. Alton's method took 1 minute 45 seconds.
about 3.5 minutes in, and I haven't seen the pressure rise at all yet. We need the pressure for this to work.
But the pressure does slowly build, in more ways than one.
This actually makes me kind of nervous. It reminds me of water heaters about to explode.
I remember that.
We are at about 7 minutes when it's only supposed to run from 3 to 5, but the pressure's coming up consistently now.
I never thought that 4 or 5 minutes from cold made any sense. There's just too much mass there.
Yeah.
Finally, they get to the point where a sudden release should pop the corn. It's not something you do with the flick of a switch.
Are you ready?
You want the lever in there, or you just want to hit that?
I'm just gonna hit that.
Go for it.
3, 2, 1.
If there's ever been a time to say, don't try this at home, it's now.
Yay!
Notice that the way that it exploded creates a shape that's more like puffed rice than it actually is popcorn because of the speed of the kind of plasma form of the starch bursting out. I think that if we took the pressure down or just didn't do it as long, it'd probably be really good.
Now, you could still argue it's lightning quick, as the corn actually pops in a fraction of a second as soon as the pressure's released. But if you're aiming to fix a quick snack inside the commercial break, forget it.
Well, at 9 minutes, 31 seconds, I wouldn't call it speedy. That's a heck of a show.
Totally. That is the most fun I have ever had making popcorn.
And the most mess.
Absolutely.
So far, Grant and Tori have only managed to muddy the waters on the taste like chicken myth.
I'm pretty sure that was not chicken.
That's not chicken.
So they decided to go back to basics. No spices, no discernible texture. And this time, Carrie's the cook.
All right. Okay. We're going to grind up all the meats, make them into patties, prepare them all the same way, feed them the samples again, and come up with a conclusion for this myth.
It all sounds pretty straightforward. So, anyone for a minced rattlesnake? Apparently not Carrie.
Jammed it. Oh. So now we're focusing solely on taste alone. Am I going to be able to taste the difference between chicken and not chicken?
What we're looking for this to be busted is that we score very high, that we can tell exactly what is and is not chicken. And if we can't tell, well, then it's confirmed, and it does taste like chicken.
But with no expert chef and no marinade, some of these exotic edibles might prove hard to swallow.
Tori?
You know, I find being blindfolded enhances the flavor of the meat.
Is it better when it's all breaded and fried?
Yeah, totally. The way he prepared it, you can really taste the difference in the meat. It masks the flavor. Right now, we're tasting just the meat, and it's pretty easy to distinguish between chicken and what's not.
Spit bucket.
Today, just 8 of the 20 dishes are actually chicken.
Ah, that's not chicken.
This ain't chicken.
Oh. That was definitely not chicken.
Peacock. I think that was peacock.
I want to cook that one a little longer.
So let's see how they've done. And if this very subjective myth is one we can bust or confirm.
I don't ever want to eat chicken again.
Okay, blindfolds off.
Wow, that was an experience.
Look at all the different colors.
It's my first barbecue with the spit buckets for sure. You ready for the results?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Tori, you got 18 out of 20, and Grant, you got 19 out of 20, which makes this myth busted.
Totally busted. I mean, with this test, without all that seasoning, it was so easy to tell the difference between chicken and what wasn't chicken.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really clear. There are some things that immediately I was like, nope, not chicken.
You know the funniest part of it? I threw an extra one in there that I've never heard as tastes like chicken, and it's the one that both of you identified as chicken. Boar.
No way.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, this myth is busted.
Totally busted.
So much meat.
You did eat a lot of food this week.
Oh, I think I'm gonna have to loosen up my belt.
Yeah, pants feel a little tight. Look out, coming through.
There's probably not a kid in the country who hasn't at least thought about frying an egg on an engine. But this is a tad more ambitious. A whole Thanksgiving dinner. And they're already sensing the savory smell of success.
Starting to smell anything?
Yeah.
It's nice. Sightseeing, cooking.
Sage. Get a little sage.
And a little
turkey
sweet
smell, yeah.
potato.
And definitely sweet potato.
Every time we pause, even for a second, we're enveloped in a cloud of sagey, yammy sweet potato goodness. I'm gonna start sticking sweet potatoes in my car just on a daily basis. It's so nice.
There was never a doubt that the food would heat up, but one of the keys to cooking is controlling the temperature. With an eye on the gauge and a nose to the wind, they decide to pull up, jack up, and test those sweet potatoes.
Here are some sweet potatoes.
Just pop them right there.
Excellent.
When it comes to cooking with your car, the catalytic converter is the rock star of the heat sources, and it's already cooked our sweet potatoes.
I proclaim these sweet potatoes to be done. Now we will simply keep them warm.
So we're just putting them on the top of the engine until everything else is caught up. There we go.
And they are catching up. Back on the road, every dish sends a different temperature profile back to the cockpit.
The Comfy's climbing faster.
It is now, yeah. Once we started up into the hills.
Yeah.
This is where Alton comes into his own. He calls for a pit stop, but not for the confit. It's the turkey breast he's worried about.
Let's get out and check everything.
All right. What are you thinking? I just tasted the end of the probe.
Yeah?
Yeah, 174. We need to get it down, buddy.
All right, I will start dismantling it.
And here's where Adam gets to do his thing.
I feel like I'm defusing a bomb at the end of an action movie. Cut the green wire with the yellow stripe, not the yellow wire with the green stripe. And then I'll just guess and it'll be right. Right.
So that's 2 of the turkeys are out, and we're gonna leave them under the hood too warm. The confit is sitting at about 147 degrees. I'd sure like to see him hit 165 before we pull him. Maybe he'll have time, maybe not. All right.
Time now is of the essence, because just down the road is the place they've picked out to break bread.
Pop the hood.
It's like ringing the dinner bell.
Now, we could have just made this a roadside picnic, but that's no way to eat Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, nice.
The venue is Marin Headland Center for the Arts, and they're barely unpacked before Alton insists they try out the turkey. If the bird's only so-so or worse, it's agreed that the whole meal's a bust.
Go ahead. How is it? Considering they were cooked in an engine.
That's delicious.
It's tasty and it's tender.
It is.
I'm not ashamed of that at all.
That's pretty high praise from a critical cook. The turkey, of course, gets Thanksgiving top billing. Now, let's see how the co-stars have fared. There is one surprise casualty.
Adaptation is incredibly important in culinary experimentation. Case in point, we have a gravy. It's delicious, but it's way too thin. So you know what? It just became our opening soup course. Like I planned it.
It's a great save, and the birth of a brand new soup. Almost everything else is surprisingly good and well cooked, including that turkey confit.
I think Henry VIII would be proud, but I think those are going to be even better.
The very last things on the menu are those experimental pumpkin pies, and they're praying this dinner doesn't end in disappointment.
This is good.
It's good.
That's
It
good.
totally worked, thank you. See, he's giving thanks. The threshold for our expectations of this was quite low. We've all suffered through some pretty bad Thanksgiving meals, but I have to admit that everything on this plate is genuinely delicious. I've had many worse Thanksgiving meals.
I've paid for worse Thanksgiving meals.
So with bellies bulging, it's time these critics passed wind and passed judgment.
Final verdict, can you cook a full Thanksgiving meal on your engine block?
If you wanna, or if you gotta.
I totally agree. Jamie, drive this oven home.
It still smells like, oh.
Did you pop the clutch? Go, go, go!